I want to ask you about the president's reported comments. He referred to immigrants from African countries, from Haiti, using an expletive. What is your reaction? Was that comment racist?
You know, really, Casey, I'll get to see you on Capitol Hill this week, and when we go into debate, we won't be debating what he said or didn't say in the Oval Office. We'll really be talking about DACA and how to fix that. And so, you know, I don't see the president as a racist at all. I probably have spent more time with him on one-on-one than most members, and I can tell you he's never had a racist comment in private. And so I have it on good authority that some of the contextual comments that have been put forth by Senator Durbin maybe are not all what they've been reported to be.
With all due respect, sir, Senator Graham has effectively confirmed that he made these comments as well. And again, do you believe that these comments were racist?
Well, you know, whether we're debating whether a country, you know, has a certain type of plumbing or not, or whether we're debating whether Nancy Pelosi's Five Guys comment is racist, I think you have to get to the bottom line. What Americans want us to do is deal with the problem that faces us, and really this is a problem that we've got to find a solution to. I don't know that Dick Durbin releasing this information was helpful in terms of that process, but I can tell you the president is not racist. I've had a number of conversations with him. I have zero tolerance for that, and as we know on Capitol Hill, this coming week is all going to be about funding and about DACA and how we get some resolution on those two items, and that's what the American people want us to address.
Is this language that you would use to describe these countries?
You know, I use all kinds of different language, normally not as colorful. I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Casey, as you well know. I enjoy a great relationship with a number of ambassadors all over the country. Overall, what we will see is that the United States is a good friend to developing countries as well as those allies abroad. And at the end of the day, you'll find us come together on that particular issue.
Do you agree with the substance of what the president said here, that the United States should have fewer immigrants from countries in Africa, from Haiti, from El Salvador, than it should from countries like Norway?
Well, I can tell you what the president has been very vocal. I've actually been dealing with him on immigration for several weeks, actually several months as we've done that. I've met with him in the Oval Office multiple times. And one of the things that I find really interesting, and it's an interesting dichotomy as we look at this particular issue, he has continued to come back to me and ask me to do two things. Try to find a bill that Dick Durbin would be happy with in the Senate. But the other thing that he has been consistent on is bringing in merit-based immigration. Well, when you look at merit-based immigration, it doesn't have any particular threshold for a country here or there. It's all about making sure that we get the brightest and best coming here, in addition to our normal refugee program that would reach out for humanitarian purposes. So he's been very consistent on the merit-based side of things, which would indicate that he's open to having immigrants come here from everywhere. But I will say that we have got to get a system that actually works, Casey. You know that for decades, under Republican and Democrat administrations, we've failed to deal with this. I feel like that we're at the threshold of finally being able to address it. And if we can get a bipartisan agreement before the president, I'm sure he'll sign it.
You mentioned this bipartisan agreement. The president tweeted earlier today, DACA is probably dead because the Democrats don't really want it. They just want to talk and take desperately needed money away from our military. Do you agree with the assessment that this DACA deal is probably dead? And again, what role do you think the president's inflammatory comments play in how this debate is going to go forward?
Well, I mean, whether a private conversation in the Oval Office ended up being on headlines really is probably came from Dick Durbin, not from the president. And so any fallout certainly would rest equally on Dick Durbin's shoulders if he's really trying to negotiate in good faith. But let's look at history. You're a reporter, Casey, and you know each and every day if you ask a Democrat, what they're saying is they just want to deal with the DACA issue first and then deal with the rest of the immigration issues later. They have been consistent almost to a point where it's a talking point.
They have said that they will support border security. That has been something that many Democrats have voted for in the past.
Well, the definition of border security, their idea, and really what most Americans and what this president campaigned on is very different, as you well know. I mean, when we're really looking at border security, we're really not only looking at just a physical wall, but we're looking at making sure that what we do is we can keep track of the people that come here, that we can have a legal immigration system that makes sure that those that really seek to do us harm do not come in. But beyond that, they have been very reluctant to do any of that. And so I think that's what the president is talking about, Casey, is he's saying negotiate in good faith. I'm willing to go all in and have gone all in, perhaps sometimes pushing a little bit further than what I'm comfortable doing to say let's get a fix and make sure that we deal with these individuals who have had deferred action, but let's also deal with the underlying problems so that we don't have to come back in a few years to deal with it again.
The principles that were negotiated by that bipartisan group of 6 senators, including Lindsey Graham and Dick Durbin, that was presented at the White House, is that framework something that you could potentially support, or do you think supporting those principles would amount to the president breaking his promises on immigration?
Well, I wouldn't support it, and it would be breaking the promises that the president made. And if you really look at it, it's not a serious proposal, Casey. I mean, let's look at this. When you say we've got a bipartisan agreement, and listen, Senator Lindsey Graham is a dear friend of mine. I enjoy working with him on a number of issues. But when it comes to immigration, this is all wrong. It's not making the case to move forward. Bob Goodlatte, as you know, has a bill that's been introduced. I think that if we start there and look at that particular bill, then perhaps see where we can find some common ground with some of our Democrat colleagues, that would be a better starting place.
Congressman, before I let you go, I want to ask you about the possibility of a government shutdown later on this week. You have been somebody who's been very critical, obviously, in leading the charge on a lot of these government spending issues. We are potentially looking at another continuing resolution to keep the government open. Are you at the point where you could support that as these negotiations continue onward or not?
You know, we're going to be meeting, Casey, on Tuesday night, not only as a conference, but as a Freedom Caucus. I am concerned that we continue to kick the can down the road.
Congressman Mark Meadows, I will see you on Capitol Hill. Thank you so much for coming in tonight. I really appreciate it.
Great to be with you, Casey.